I have Christine Hodgson up first from Therapeutic Recreation. I am going to spotlight you and then make you a co-host, and then it's all yours.
Nothing like going first. But hi everyone. I want to apologize first for my voice. I'm getting over being sick, so just bear with me. And I apologize for the light. I'm trying to hide from my two children, so just bear with me as well. But like Amanda said, I work for Therapeutic Recreation, which is a department within Neighborhood and Community Services. So for Fairfax County government. We have a variety of services that we provide year round, but for our summer camps, we focus on the full age group. So we have one focus for 5 to 12-year-olds, having the 5-year-olds having to have completed kindergarten, and then that second age group for 13 to 22. And so our focus for camps are really having fun, recreation, purposefully. We focus on ensuring that our friends are trying new things in a way where we are able to support them the best we can. We focus on collaboration. We have a variety of ratio rooms. So some of our friends might need a little bit more support. And so we establish our room ratio based off of registrations, based off of conversations with families, based off of observations in schools. So we try to, because Fairfax County is so large, we try to space out as best we can. We will have 3 camps this summer, 3 locations, excuse me, and our registration will open up in April. So we are excited for another fun-filled summer. We do field trips. We visit some of the community centers that our agency have sensory spaces. Hopefully, many of you have visited them. So we take our kiddos to the different community centers to spend time at the sensory spaces. We have a lot of contractors come out, whether that's drumming, yoga, dance. We try really to have a variety of activities, and within our registrations, we ask a lot of questions about interests so that we can plan our activities around what our folks that are coming to our camps are interested in. And we are just excited to be here tonight and to hopefully answer any questions that the group might have.
Thank you so much, Christine. Before we move on to the next presenter, I do just want to put a quick disclaimer in. I meant to put this in at the beginning. We do have all of the camps here tonight. We have Therapeutic Recreation. Thank you, Christine. We have Fairfax County Park Authority. We have the Jewish Community Center of Northern Virginia. We have Capital Camps, and we have Summit Camps. We do have a board member. Michelle Cades is a former employee of Capital Camps, and other SEPTA board members have had personal experiences with some of the presenters' camps this evening. Neither our board members nor SEPTA as an organization have any kind of financial interests or gains from any of the camps presenting tonight. So we did just want to make that clear up front. And we're going to go on next to Fairfax County Park Authority. So Monica Clark.
Thank you.
I'm going to do the spotlighting things again.
Perfect. And I can't just go straight from the hip like Christine, so I'm going to share some slides real quick so I don't miss anything. Thank you all for having us tonight. My name is Monica Clark. I am the Adapted Program Specialist for Fairfax County Park Authority in our Access and Inclusion branch. So like neighborhood and community services, we are an agency of Fairfax County. And so I just want to share a few adapted and inclusion summer camps that we do have to offer this summer. Adapted camps were new to us last summer. It's something that we're trying to grow and build. And so we were able to add a couple of different options this summer, and we hope to continue to build as we move forward. So Summer ACE and Junior ACE, Adapted Camp Excitement, those are our variety type camps, arts and crafts, sports, going outside, playing games, kind of just your typical variety summer camp. but it really is specifically designed for children with disabilities. Lower ratio, usually 3-to-1, 4-to-1 is kind of what we're looking at for those camps. Last summer, we were able to get it to 2-to-1. So it all also depends on how many staff we hire, but we look to go no higher than that 4-to-1. So those are the couple of dates and times and locations that we'll be at for that one. We were also able to work with one of our really cool vendors to offer an adapted animal and fishing explorers camp this summer for 10 to 15-year-olds. Again, specifically designed for young adults or kids and young adults or teens with disabilities. And it's kind of an adventure camp. So you meet at one location and you go off site every day. And so we're really excited to offer that option. And all of those camps, ACE and Adapted Animal, those are all currently registration is open. So feel free to take a look at those. And then we also have our Rec Pack inclusion sites. And so those are sites that are dedicated for children with and without disabilities. It's for 6 weeks throughout the summer. And you register for each week that makes the most sense for your schedule. And we have 4 locations that this lower ratio is set up. We also have staff that are educated and trained most of the time, special education teachers, therapeutic rec college students that are at those locations specifically designated to support the children with disabilities to make sure they're set up for success. You also have the option to register for our traditional summer camps. We offer thousands of different types of camps. Registration is open for those. They've been open for about a month now, so registration might be a little tight at this point, but definitely take a look to see what's still available. We have such a wide range of camp options that are really exciting for a bunch of different kids so that you can kind of find what makes the most sense for your child. And when you look at kind of the services that we are able to provide in the camp setting, we do staff support. If you need sign language interpreters, that can all be requested through our office. Any type of physical accessibility. We'll talk more about the accommodation plans in the next slide really quickly. And we can offer alternative formats or auxiliary aids, whatever makes the most sense for your child to be successful in our camp setting. And so the levels of support that we're able to provide in our traditional camps, we have 3 different options, and we kind of work with you to figure out what makes the most sense for your child. So we have accommodation plans, which is basically just a sheet of paper that provides all the strategies that are going to help set them up for success. And that is implemented by the actual camp staff without any direct support from our team in the Access and Inclusion branch. Then we move into a jump start, and that is when we provide a child maybe 1-2 days with direct support, create the accommodation plan, work with the staff, set them up, get them comfortable, make sure they're ready to go, and then we withdraw that support once they're set up for success. If we get there, we say we're going to do a jump start, and it's not, going to plan that we want to withdraw support, we won't. So this is kind of just an option that if somebody just needs to get comfortable, we can set that up. And then we have our inclusion specialists, or you may know them as leisure coaches. In the summer, we call them inclusion specialists. And they provide that direct support to any child with a disability signed up for our camps to foster that successful participation in the program. All that support kind of varies child by child. So some is kind of more like hands-on, one-on-one, making sure they have everything they need. And then sometimes it's more of kind of like a sit back, watch, help out, jump in when strategies need to be implemented. And so it all is based on the conversations that we have and the paperwork that we have you fill out prior to camp. And then we also task our inclusion specialists with providing training and mentoring to camp staff so that as the child moves through summer, if you do multiple weeks with us, the staff are also feel comfortable about working with children with disabilities. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our FCPA access at fairfaxcounty.gov, and we can help you through the process because we have a lot of different options for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monica. Being down our list, I am collecting the questions that I'm receiving in the chat. If you prefer sending it privately to me, that's fine also. Next up, if we could have our representatives from the Jewish Community Center of Northern Virginia. We have Lauren Panazzo and Greg Feitel. I'm going to spotlight you both.
I'm gonna get started while Lauren gets pinned. I'm Greg Vitale. I'm the Director of School Age Services at the Poses Jewish Community Center. Lauren, who's there on my screen, is our coordinator for inclusion and belonging at Camp Akva, which is one of the programs that our department oversees. Camp Akva is a traditional day camp for children rising into kindergarten through age 14, located in Fairfax. We run 6 weeks during the summer from June 24th to August 2nd. And we are very proud to say that this is our 55th summer coming up. Camp Akva is a neurodiverse camp, and we are sort of here to provide a joyful and accessible space for personal empowerment, community stewardship, diverse perspectives, and Jewish experiences. Practically speaking, that means that we believe in providing an experience that meets campers where they are. We adapt programming to meet the needs of those coming to camp. Our focus is really on people over programming and connections over content. I would say that our camp is progressing on like the continuum of belonging. We are moving from simply providing accessible services, accommodations, and access towards full inclusion. We have a lot of work to get there. We are very excited for the journey ahead. I think just to sort of sum up our last points, like we're also a licensed childcare center by the Virginia Department of Education, and we are also accredited by the American Camp Association. And Lauren, if you want to speak a little about your work, I think now is a great time.
Yeah, so again, my title is Inclusion and Belonging, and our camp really has a large focus on not really disabilities as much as is including people and like focus on peoplehood. And so, like Greg mentioned, like we really want to focus on not just accommodations, but really making sure that everyone is successful at camp. And so, I speak not only to families who maybe want to have a conversation and like we know that our child like would need specific supports, but I'm also speaking to new families to make sure that we have everything in place so that their campers are successful. That's just a small glimpse of my work. I do a few other things, but yes, I'll go with that.
Thank you both. And if you guys are ready to move on, we'll move on to capital camps. Okay. We have Hannah Stoller here from Capital Camps.
Yes, hello. And I have a screen to share. Okay. Ooh. I'm trying to figure out how to present because oh, there we go. Okay, hi everyone. I am really happy to be here, and I first just wanted to say, as a former teacher and future school psychologist, I just really appreciate all of the work that you do, and I'm really in awe of all of the time that you put into advocating for your kids. And so I'm happy to be here. So I'm representing Capital Camps, which and I'm the inclusion coordinator there. So Capital Camps is a pluralistic Jewish inclusive overnight camp. And we serve rising second graders through rising 12th graders. So pretty big age range, and how long the campers can go to camp depends on their age. So we have 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, and 7 week options offered. There's a lot of flexibility there. The camp is in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania, which is right over the Maryland border. It's about an hour and a half from Fairfax. And the point of camp, there's a lot of purposes, but I think the main ones are building independence, friendship, memories, just having fun, joy, and for our camp specifically, Jewish identity. So inclusion at Capital Camps, we call it the Atzmaim program. The word Atzmaim comes from the Hebrew word for independence, because we think that camp is a really important way to build independence in children, especially children with disabilities. We have a fully inclusive model. So campers are fully integrated into bunks with their same age non-disabled peers. And the way that the campers with disabilities are supported within their bunk is that there is an inclusion specialist. So this is an 18 to 22-year-old counselor who is their, we call it like go-to person, their go-to counselor. And this counselor has extra training on how to support campers with disabilities, and specifically a lot of preparation on how to support the camper who they are paired with. And the way that we prepare for how to support those campers is we do a lot of partnering with parents and providers ahead of time before camp to determine support strategies, accommodations, and just gather a lot of information so we know how to best support campers and meet them where they're at. In terms of who can participate, we serve campers with a really wide range of disabilities. We're a fully ADA compliant campus, and we have supported campers with mobility needs, wheelchairs, and we can also support campers with social, emotional, behavioral, and also health needs. And I listed some of the past disabilities and conditions that campers have had who we've supported, but also participation in the inclusion program is based on camper support needs in the camp environment, not necessarily a diagnosis. So we've had campers who have an IEP, are in special education, receive special education services at school during the year, but in the camp environment, they might be like totally independent. And then we've had campers who might not receive support during the year, but need support at camp, because we know that there's a lot of different demands at camp than there is at school. So we really try to, as I said, work with the families to learn more about what a specific camper needs within the camp environment, which is kind of its own unique world. And then what are the benefits of the Yatsmaim program of inclusion? We really take a stance at Capital Camps that, inclusion is a right, but also it enhances our entire community. So we know there's benefits for the campers participating. So we see a lot of increased independence, life skills, peer friendship, self-confidence. A lot of times campers come home and their parents reach out and say that they see a huge change in their independence and life skills, and just overall affect. But then we know also the rest of the community benefits by learning more about awareness of differences and collective responsibility. So the program is really ingrained into who we are. And there's so much buy-in all across the board, because we know that this makes our community unique and strong. And we're really, really proud of what we do. So if you would like more information, feel free to take a picture, screenshot. So our website is capitalcamps.org. And I know this is very long email, but this email, @capitalcamps.org, that will go to me if you have any inquiries. For this upcoming summer, we only have a couple of spots open, but there are a lot of opportunities now and over the summer to come visit camp and learn more, so that you can start thinking about if it's right for you for future summers. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Hannah. And then our last camp for presentation, and then we will move into question and answers. I have Summit Camp. We have Shep Baum from Summit Camp.
Hello, everybody. I won't apologize for my voice because this is not a cold. This is how I always sound. So we have a couple things that we run at Summit Camp, and I know I'm last, so I'll go as quick as I can. We are a sleepaway camp in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. We serve kids starting at age 8, and we don't really age out. We age out when there's not a proper peer group. We have a couple different things. So we have our summer camp where kids live in a bunk, 6 to 8 campers, 3 to 4 staff members. They do all the activities from zip lining to our own go-kart track, a lake, a pool, sports, arts and crafts, ceramics, woodshop, list goes on and on and on. However, we don't do them for the reasons most people think, right? So we play basketball, but I could care less if our kids score a basket. We focus on 4 things, and really 4 things only. So number 1 is having fun. right? It's camp. It's not extended school year. It's time for them to have fun. Number 2 is working on independence and self-esteem. Number 3 is working on social skills and executive functioning skills. And number 4 is making, but more importantly, maintaining proper and appropriate friendships. A lot of the kids that come to Summit are great with adults and very good little kids. It's their own peers that they typically struggle the most with, not making, but really maintaining friendships. So that's our traditional camp. Looks like a traditional camp out there, just serving kids with special needs. The second thing we have is our Independence House. Our center program. That's also during the summer, and that starts at age 18. And instead of living in cabins, they live in houses. And from morning till lunch, they work on life skills. They go food shopping. They get jobs, working on independent skills and things of that nature, doing their own laundry, stuff like that. And then from lunch to lights out, they're swimming and zipping and go-karting and doing the fun stuff. That's called our center program, and that also runs during the summer. We have our travel trips, right? So we do real travel, teen tours starting at age 15. This year's are going to London and Ireland, Spain, Colorado, and a cruise. So taking our kids out and working on those same 4 things just outside of camp. And the last thing that we have is our Independence House program, and that runs all year, and that's after high school. It's a program where they live there and they work on getting jobs and life skills and independent living skills. 6 to 8 kids will live in our bunks, and 3 to 4 staff members will live in the bunks typically during camp. And we're focused. Can you go on the cruise? That's the famous question. Parents are not accepted, but Emily can. So, but I put my email and on our website on the chat. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. Get your kids to camp. It's very, very important. It doesn't have to be my camp. These other ones sound amazing as well, but it's very important in the growth of our kids. And it's not like a day at camp is equal to a day at home. It's a day at camp is equal to a week or 2 weeks at home. So the growth is tremendous. Thank you for listening to me. And I hope I went quick enough for everyone.
Thank you so much. And for those watching the recording, the Summit Camp link is www.summitcamp.com. And Shep's email is shep, SHEP, @summitcamp.com. And if this was one of the questions that was asked in the chat, if all of the camps could please share your website links in the chat, and also put in the chat whether or not it's a day camp or an overnight sleepaway camp, just so that everybody can have it all in one place. For those who are in the chat, you will be able to save the chat. As I see them come up, I will be happy to share that information. From the Jewish Community Center, we have www.vj.org/camps/camp-akva, ACHVA. Summit Camp is overnight. Camp Akva is a day camp. We can continue to cover those as we go forward. We've got www.fairfaxcounty.gov/parks/park takes and their day camps. This is for the Fairfax County Park Authority. For capital camps, which is an overnight camp, the website is capitalcamps.org. The email address I am not going to try to read out loud and spell out loud. Sorry, Hannah, but it is in the chat, and we do have the slides, so we will also make sure to share the slides afterwards. And then for therapeutic rec, it is a day camp, and the website address for that is www.fairfaxcounty.gov/neighborhood-community-services/therapeutic-recreation-camp. We do have a follow-up question. This leads right into what we were just talking about with the rec pack. What are the adapted rec pack sites for this year? I'm gonna give me take a moment to think about it while I spotlight everyone to get the entire panel up on the
Yep,
screen.
I'm just getting it pulled up here. So our 4 rec pack inclusion sites are going to be at Poplar Tree, which is located in Chantilly, Woodburn, which is located in Falls Church, Herndon, located in Herndon, and Garfield, also located in Springfield. Those will be the 4 locations. And I know there was a question about ratio, and it really depends. The site as a whole will most likely be around the 1 to 8, 1 to 10, but in terms of how many children register that have a specific disability, last year we kind of saw like a 1 to 2, 1 to 5 ratio for that staff and the children with disabilities that were at that location.
All right.
I saw a question about our weekenders. We do have weekend programs. So 1 weekend a month, we go different places. Am I unmuted?
You see, yep, you're good.
Um, 1 weekend a month, we go different places, everywhere from Hershey Park to different to Six Flags, you name it. And as far as medication goes, we have full 24 hours, 7 days a week medical team on site, and also that travel with us wherever we go. I don't know if that was for me or someone else.
You got a little ahead of me, Chef. I was about to ask that for everyone. If everyone could please answer the question, because this is one we had come in. Whether or not your camps handle medications, are they able to give medications? And then a follow-up with that is should I give my camper a meds vacation, a vacation from meds during camp? Why or why not?
Never. Never. Meds are not just to help you in school, right? They're helping in lots of other things. And if you don't want to give them a med break when they're home, you shouldn't want to give them a med break at camp, because it will lessen the likelihood of success. So we don't allow it at Summit if we don't allow med breaks.
All right. And if let's go to Capital Camps.
Yeah, about the med breaks, I would second what Shep said. And we do handle medications. We have a team of nurses and doctors and health center staff who keep all of the meds and make sure that everyone gets their meds at whatever time they need it. We use a service that called Pack My RX that puts the meds in like daily packets, and so it's very like organized and easy to distribute. So yeah, we take care of all of that.
All right, thank you. Christine?
We do handle medications, and we do medical procedures too as well. And then also we have personal care assistance as well.
Okay. Greg and Lauren?
Yeah, we are also equipped to handle all medications that come through from whatever campers bring. We are a day camp, so it's a little bit, I think, different than some of the overnight camps, where I don't think the recommendation is to take a medication holiday, as they call it, but like I'm not a doctor. So if your doctor says that like that is what your child needs, we can talk about it, as we would talk about, I think, everything with every family that comes to us about what our plan would be going forward. We would also give a lot of notes about how we're handling things and what we are seeing, so you can make an informed decision about what to do next.
Okay. And Monica for Fairfax County Parks Authority.
Yeah, we do also have medication. Most of our staff at each of the sites are MAT trained or MAT diabetes trained or MAT seizure trained. So we can handle all different types of those medications that fall under those.
Okay. Thank you very much. Most of you covered whether or not your camps offer inclusion opportunities. What do you think the benefits are of inclusion during summer camp? And then if you do have inclusion opportunities, what is the staffing ratio for your inclusion sites or programs? Whoever wants to take it first.
I mean, I can go so like I said, I work for Neighborhood and Community Services. So we also have all of the SAC sites, all of the community center sites, the Teen in Action. I know that they operate within with inclusion practices, but for us, all of our participants do have disabilities minus. We do have a preschool program that is only a 1 week session, and that is for that would be an inclusion program. But I think the benefits is everything that Hannah shared. She spoke very beautifully to it. So
Quick follow-up for therapeutic rec specifically. Are there any plans to go back to 6 weeks? Somebody said they believe they were 6 weeks long before the pandemic, and now they're 3.
So we're still working out the logistics of what this summer is going to look like. It's going to be announced soon. And then, like I said, registration will open in April. It's based on staffing. We want to make sure that we're keeping our friends safe and supported so that they can be successful. So if you know anyone that would like a summer job, send them my way, and we can get back to operating as full as we possibly can. But yes, right now I don't have an answer if it's 6 weeks for all age groups or if it's 3 for the different age groups. Unfortunately, I don't have that answer right now.
Okay, we will look forward to more of that information coming out. Greg and Lauren, going back to the inclusion question and staffing ratio. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, so our ratio is the sort of same no matter what age group you are in camp. It's like a little lower, a little higher, but typically it is 1 to 6. But that is whether we are inside of our camp facility or whether we are on a field trip of any sort. We typically lower it a little bit to 1 to 4 when we are outside. But we are a neurodiverse camp. I mean, it is everyone at every point and every time. We adapt everything that we do to meet the needs of the kids that come through. It looks different at different ages, but I think that we are set up to accommodate most things. There are some boundaries that we have. There are some things we are sort of like red lines for us, but they're few and far between.
Okay. Do any of the other camps want to jump in on this?
Yeah, to speak to the ratio. So typically, we have a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 ratio with campers and inclusion counselors. And so it just depends on the camper. We have some campers who can do okay kind of sharing a support person with another cabin within their bunk if they need support kind of less frequently. And then we have other campers who we know we want one person available for all the time. And so I work with the families to kind of figure out what's best. And then in terms of the benefits of inclusion, I touched on some, but I think also some of the families I've worked with whose kids are neurodivergent or have disabilities, sometimes they really benefit from being in community with other kids with the same disabilities. And also sometimes it can be like triggering or difficult for them to be in a situation where they're living in such close quarters with other people who might struggle with the similar things that they do. And so I think inclusion, it versus being with other kids with disabilities, it's a very like case by case situation on what's best for your child. But just the friendships, relationships, and the learning that I've seen come out of inclusion is really like indescribable. It's the kind of thing that's like hard to even put into words. You'd have to just kind of see it and know that it's super powerful.
All right. Do we have anybody else who needs to and or wants to address the staffing ratio?
I'll just jump in really quick. I know I've talked about a lot of our staff ratios, but at the Park Authority, we're really trying to build that kind of continuum of services so we can figure out what is going to make everybody the most successful, which is why we've added the adapted camps. We have the rec pack inclusion sites, and then we have the traditional sites. So it's kind of a little bit of an option for what makes the most sense for your child. I do think one thing that it's important for us to point out is that we cannot provide personal care in any of our camps, which is why we're glad that we have our friends at NCS who are able to provide that service. And so we've been collaborating and working together to continue to build that continuum of camp offerings within Fairfax County. But yeah, that's kind of what we kind of look at in terms of what we're able to provide.
Can you clarify a little bit more on the personal care?
Yeah,
What
so
that means?
the child needs to be able to utilize the restroom independently. We can provide like verbal prompts and things like that if that may be something that they need to be successful, but we cannot physically support restroom feeding. We aren't able to support anything like that. And changing, they have to be able to, if they're in a camp that maybe participates in swimming, they have to be able to change themselves in and out of their clothing.
Okay. So if children do need support on any of those things, then they really need to look at therapeutic rec offerings.
Yes.
Okay. Shep, I forget if you answered that did you start us off with the answer to that? I want to make sure you have an opportunity to answer the staffing ratios and inclusion piece. Oh.
Yeah, so we have different staff to camper ratios, anywhere from our largest would be 6 to 8 campers with 3 to 4 staff members, and then we do have other bunks that have 1-to-1. So it just depends on the young adults or child's needs. We are not an inclusion camp. All our kids do have some sort of needs, everything from that runs the gamut from LD to on the spectrum to all sorts of different things. But we do a full intake to make sure that the kid's right and that we're grouping them correctly, and then we decide the staffing ratio based off of that.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is a similar follow-up question. I can find where it went. Sorry, there's a long list I have over here.
Amanda, while you're looking for that, I'm sorry, I don't think I said our ratios. So we do
Go ahead, Christine.
we have we typically will break up our classrooms for like a 1-to-5 ratio for campers to counselors, and then we might have like a 1-to-3-4 classroom, and then we'll have 1-to-2 ratio. So if folks need that consistent 1-to-1, that might not be the right fit. We do allow folks to bring in companions, aides with the right paperwork and whatnot. So if they do need that extra support, we do kind of work with families to ensure that we can kind of work something out if it's an appropriate setting. Sorry, I just want to make sure I shared that.
No, thank you, Christine. And that goes along with what my follow-up was if this was submitted to us, if I disclose all of my child's issues or needs, will that hurt their chances of being accepted to attend the camp?
No, I mean, absolutely disclose every single thing about your child. I don't think any of us are in business to turn people down, especially not me. I can only speak for myself, but not all camps are created equal, right? And not, kids that could do great at my camp may not do good at another camp, and kids that do good at another camp may not do good at mine. So disclosing all your kids' needs will ensure that they're placed in the right camp, right? My goal is never to turn people down. My goal is to make sure they're with the right group of kids. And if they're not right for me, at least, I always come back with at least 3 recommendations of places that may be a good fit, that I don't have any affiliation with, but may be a good fit. But holding back, a diagnosis or anything about your kid is setting them up for failure, in my eyes.
Yeah, if we ever were to turn someone down, it would be for safety reasons. And I assume that, we'd all be on the same page of wanting to make sure that our campers are safe. Ultimately we just want campers to feel successful, and it would be an unfortunate situation if someone didn't disclose something and it led to a camper going home early because of safety situations, because that can lead to them not feeling successful. So definitely really, really recommend disclosing as much as possible. And if it's the right camp, then they'll work with you. And if it's not, then as Shep said, they'll hopefully refer you somewhere else.
I'm seeing lots of head nods. I totally agree. Does anybody have anything else to add to that?
I just have one more piece to add. I think most of the camp industry is like a place that says yes, and so we always want to say yes. It's like very hard for us to say no, even sometimes when we should. But I would say that more than just disclosing like in the initial intake or sort of like at the beginning of the registration process, which can happen like in December, November, sometimes it's October for other camps, but continuing to have the conversation and providing updates about how your child is doing to the camp as the time goes on is very helpful for us. Like if something changes, it's really useful for us to know.
Absolutely. And for our overnight camps, just to build on that, for the camps that are overnight, if there are changes like that being observed at an overnight camp, I would, of course, assume that kind of communication is going back from the camp to the families also, correct? Seeing lots of head nods. Thank you. Okay. We had another one come in, a little too related. One for our Jewish camps, do you need to be, both of them are for our Jewish camps present tonight. One, do you need to be Jewish to attend the Jewish camps? And then two, someone did a quick search for Camp Akva and it mentioned needing a JCC membership to register for the camp. And is that correct?
I guess we'll go first since we have the two-parter. So you do not need to be Jewish to come to camp. We provide a level of like humanistic, I think, values that are applicable to everyone that comes. Our theoretical like underpinning of camp and what we program from is from a Jewish lens, but you do not need to be Jewish to participate. There is a summer membership fee, so you don't have to be a member like year-round. It is an additional, I think, I want to say it's $525 for the summer. I could be wrong about that off the top of my head. You do not need to pay that at the time of registration. We didn't say this at the beginning, but we also have flexible registration weeks, so you can pick what weeks you want to come based on like when your family's vacation is, or if you are going to another camp like Capital Camps, which is provided by the same, you're part of the JCCA as well as us. And so like if you are going to other camps in the area, you can do us around them.
Okay.
Sorry. So for capital camps, you do need to be Jewish to attend the camp. And we know that being Jewish can mean different things to different people. So we're happy to like work with families to see if it's the right fit. But yes, we do require some kind of Jewish affiliation.
Okay. Thank you very much. And this was, I believe, to JCCNV, but I'm going to open it up to anybody. Just if you could quickly just reiterate what age ranges you accept for campers.
Yeah. We take kids who are rising into kindergarten, so in the following school year. So if your child is in preschool but going into kindergarten in the following school year, we take, that's like our youngest age range, all the way up until 14, 15 or so, and then right around 16 you can work. So really through, 65, 70, we'll take anyone.
All right, I'll pass. If everybody could reiterate the age ranges, that would be great.
We are 8, starting at 8, and goes up till there's not a proper peer group. I've had 28-year-olds at camp before, just making sure that there's a good peer group. And as far as our time frame for that goes, our shortest could be 10 days, and then we have kids that are there for 9.5 weeks. So for those who wanted the longer them to stay open for 6 weeks, we stay open for 9.5. So we'll take you.
All right. Capital camp.
So the youngest age group that we have is going into 2nd grade. And that would be for a 2-week or 5-day or 2-week session. And then rising 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders can go for the shorter sessions, 5-day or 2 weeks, or they can then at that point start going for a 4-week session or a 3-week session. And then 6th grade and up, you have the choice of the 4-week or the 3-week session. And we also typically our campers who go through and do this have been with us for a while, but we do have an internship program. When the campers are rising 11th grade, they start be in this leadership program where they start exploring jobs around camp that they could potentially be hired for in 2 years. And then we have a supportive employment plan, supportive employment program that campers can go through after that. So got a lot of options all through those age ranges. So rising 2nd grade to staff, basically.
All right. Therapeutic rec, Christine?
We serve 5 to 22-year-olds. Campers have to have completed kindergarten and they can't have graduated from high school yet. So they have to still be in school.
Okay. And Monica?
It really depends on the camp you're looking at, but we mostly do 5 to 15, 16-year-olds. And then Rec Pack is specifically for 1st graders through 6th graders.
Thank you. There was a specific question that came in. My daughter will have completed kindergarten this year, but will still be 5 over the summer, a late September birthday. Will she be eligible for the camps that say 6 to 9 years? So this is a child who would have started kindergarten in, like, we started in August. She would have been 4 when she started kindergarten, turned 5 at the end of September, completed kindergarten. And then the summer between kindergarten and 1st, she'll still be 5 technically, but she's post kindergarten. I'm seeing some confused looks. Is that something that we should potentially say, reach out to the individual camp and follow up with individually?
Yeah, for us, I mean, I think she would qualify for like the Rec Pack inclusion sites because it's for 1st graders and she'd be a rising 1st grader. In terms of like in our registration system, I'm just not exactly sure when our registration birth date is to see if she would qualify. That's the only thing. So we would have to kind of just work through that with our camps.
Okay. So it sounds like that is something definitely to reach out individually if you've got further questions on how that's handled. This is one of those time periods that registration systems can be really wonderful, and they can also be a little confusing when not quite dealing with the calendar year. All right. I'm making sure I haven't had any others come in. Okay. Do you have current families of campers with disabilities available to talk with potential families about their kids' experiences?
Absolutely, yes. I've connected families in the past, kind of based on the need of the child and someone who might have a similar experience or profile. I can definitely set parents up to chat.
We get that a lot, and we it's an absolute yes. However, I think it's ridiculous because who am I going to give you? The people that don't like us? No, I'm going to give you the people that think we're great and that we're amazing. So, but sure, we'll get you as many referrals as you want. But yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it can just help to hear and
Yeah.
lessen the anxiety on the parent side when it's
I'm
something we're not familiar with, to just have some idea of how has this been handled in the past.
Absolutely. I'm just joking, of course.
No, I know. I gotta say it though, because I honestly I live in that space a lot because my daughter does have some high support needs. So it is anxiety inducing sometimes when you're not quite sure how a program can meet those needs. And it's really helpful to hear from somebody else who's been in a similar place, to hear from how they've done it, and that it's possible. It can be very reassuring. And help spur the reaching out and registering rather than being like, okay, I don't really know if this is for me, so I'm going to sit back and maybe just not.
Yeah.
But it can help encourage putting that out there. So thank you. Does anybody else have anything to share on that? Right. What if it does not work out once my child is there? This is for day or for overnight camps. Do you clearly delineate behaviors that are deal breakers and would result in my child being sent home early?
For us, we do a full intake before we accept anybody, which includes getting an educator report, neuropsych if you have one, or a clinician report, and scheduling a time to speak with my therapist for about an hour with the parents, and either a home visit or a Zoom visit. Not to be a pain in the neck to parents, but to make sure that we're accepting the right kids. However, there are times, of course, where kids come and something happens, and it's a behavior that's not noted, or it's a behavior that's changed, or it's something that we was overlooked or not mentioned. And we do everything we can at Summit to make that kid successful, because sending a kid home is never what we want to do, because it's horrible for the kid, it's horrible for the kids that stay behind, it's not good for the staff morale, etc. So we'll reach out to parents. You're not just off duty as soon as you drop off your kids. We'll reach out to parents and say, hey, this is what we're seeing. Have you seen this behavior before? What have you done? If so, whatever. And we'll come up with behavior plans or different things that we constantly work through. But we're not 100% successful. I don't think anybody's ever 100% successful when you're dealing with that many kids. And we try to make it, if they do have to go home, highlighting all the success that they did have, and stuff that they could work on, so that they could hopefully come back if that's an option.
Do we have any follow-up from our day camps? Hannah, I see that you have a follow-up too. I just want to see if our day camps have any follow-up, since it's a little bit of a different situation than overnight.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I don't want to speak for the other two day camps on the call. I would say, like, I think success is very person driven, and so, like, when somebody is not successful, like, we have the ability to have somebody reset overnight and come back the next day. So sometimes like, not being successful for a day doesn't mean that you won't be the next day or the next hour or 4 hours from then. And some of it is just bridging the gap between there. There are times where it's completely not successful. Some of that is on our end, some of that is on the information end. Like I think Jep said, there are behaviors that become more apparent, or that weren't sort of noticed, or that are just completely new to us. I will say that we talk frequently with parents, both drop off, pick up, and every hour in between, to do our best to support every camper as best as we can. We want to say yes, and sometimes it just gets overlooked. I will say that in terms of, like, accommodations that we cannot support, it is listed on our website up front, so that anybody can see it as soon as you go on there. We have an inclusion page, and Lauren, if she's available, can put it in the chat. We're very upfront about what we cannot accommodate.
Thank you. And thank you in advance for putting that link in the chat. Hannah, I know you had something you wanted to add to that too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I really try to emphasize with parents that even with all of the intake that we do and all the information we gather, overnight camp is so different from school in so many ways, in that it's kind of it never stops. Like you don't get to go home and decompress and be on the iPad and go to sleep, as early as you want. And so sometimes we see behaviors at camp that we totally did not see coming, and neither did the parents. And that is rare, but it happens. And in those situations, we really try to stay in touch with the parents and brainstorm together and talk to the child's therapist or anyone who can kind of help us change course. Ultimately, the things that are, like, as I said before, the point where it gets to be like, okay, you can't be here anymore, is just when it's a safety concern. So I ask every parent, has your child eloped from school? Do they have eloping behaviors? Because that's something that we can't really support, or physical aggression. So those are kind of the main two that we look at. because we want to make sure that everyone stays safe. But otherwise, yeah, I would say similar to what Shep and Greg said, we really work on that parent communication piece so that we're actively working through problems and challenges as they come up.
Monica and Christine, do you have anything from the county perspective?
It's similar to what everybody else has mentioned. We do have a code of conduct that all of our campers have to follow regardless of disability. We do with our code of conduct, if the child needs support in order to meet the code of conduct, that is something that we can provide. But again, if it's a big safety thing around physical aggression or eloping, those are things that we'll have removal. But similar to what Greg was saying is we kind of have a process. So if you have a bad day and we have to end up sending somebody home, they can come back the next day to try to restart and reset. We can provide additional support, additional strategies to make sure that they're set up for success. We kind of have like a process of dismissal. But yeah, those are kind of like the big things for us.
Okay. Anything to add to that, Christine?
I was just going to say everyone kind of covered everything, that safety piece being like the biggest focus, and really trying to start from the beginning by doing those school observations, those conversations, and really having a thorough registration process to try to get a good picture to set those strategies and environments up for folks to be successful. But times change. People are people. So it's really trying to keep that going throughout camp, keep that communication going as well.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I just have one more thing to add. As I was like listening to everybody else speak and thinking a little bit about it, I want to say that like if you are a parent and you are looking at a camp to send your child to, and the camp doesn't have an intake process, or they don't have a like participant agreement, or they don't have things listed online about what their processes are, those should be red flags for you. They're like, I think, common best practices in the industry at this point. And if somebody's not upfront about what they can and cannot support and accommodate, you should walk away pretty quickly.
Good point. Thank you. I'm going to pick up on that communication piece. We've had some discussion about the kind of communication that happens if there's a disruption, if there's a change in behavior, if there's these more severe behaviors or something along those lines. But on a regular basis, completely just day-to-day basis, nothing has happened. It's just, this is the day. What is the expectation parents should have in terms of how your camp will communicate with them on just a normal basis when everything's going as it should?
We set that between the parents and our unit leaders. So I have parents that are like, hey, don't ever call me unless there's a problem. And we're like, okay. But if they don't say that, typically we send out emails from myself, and then the unit leaders also send direct ones to the parents. And then they get phone calls. If everything's going fine, they'll get one phone call or 2 phone calls a week. If there's something going on, then we include them in that to try and work through that. We also post 200 to 800 pictures a day. So that's a lot of communication that the parents get to see, and videos every Monday night of camp.
Thank you. See, Hannah?
So it honestly depends on the family. I try to get a sense of how often parents like communication, because some are like, I don't want to hear unless there's something wrong. And then others want the proactive updates. I would say I don't really send updates to families more than once a week-ish. Like that's kind of my cutoff if everything is totally fine. But we communicate it on a needs basis as things come up. But yeah, typically I would say probably once every 2 weeks is like the average.
Okay. Monica?
So, if your child has an inclusion specialist assigned, typically what would happen at check-in is just like a quick, hey, how was the morning? Are we doing good? And then at the end of the day, just kind of quick debrief as you're signing them out, on how the day went. So just like quick little nuggets of conversation. Same thing with our adapted camps, checking in the morning, at check-in, check out in the afternoon. If they're on any other type, like if they're just on an accommodation plan, you can check in with the site staff to see how things went, but you might not get that like direct quick check-ins if they're just kind of on that accommodation plan. But if somebody's assigned to them, then just little quick, how's everything going, kind of stuff like that.
I'd
Greg
say
and
for-
Lauren?
Oh,
Or
I can
Christine,
go
go
real
ahead.
quick, sorry. Yeah, I think for us, it's similar. It's mostly just for drop off and pickup. We do have transportation as well. So for our friends that are taking the school buses, it might look a little less frequent. So we do have a direct line to the directors on site. So parents always have access to be able to speak to staff during the day. But as far as check-ins, it's really just that connection and based off of like what the family is requesting.
And then Greg and Lauren.
Yeah, we love it when a day goes well and there's like only good information to give out. It is like I think the best thing that happens at camp. We do try to make a special effort when we see parents at pick up and drop off, whether that is from our transportation, whether that is in carpool itself, to give good notes. Sometimes that is in emails that our unit leaders or myself or Lauren send. Sometimes that is in just quick conversations from anybody who's taking care of your child during the day. But I know that Lauren especially likes to go around and make sure that she has something nice to say about every camper who she interacts with. And Lauren, if you want to speak more about that, you can.
Yeah, it's challenging for families when you're only receiving like news about like, oh, like this happened today, or like this was a challenge that happened today. And so I try to make an intentional effort of like, okay, like maybe today was a bit more challenging for your camper, but I saw they really enjoyed Gaga, or they really had a great time with arts and crafts, or they were extra kind today. And so finding different ways to kind of spotlight those nuggets of like really great information. I try to share with families, whether it's a quick phone call, or it is an email. It kind of just depends on the day. Like each day looks a little bit different, and like maybe what the family has requested. If like they have requested like can we have a phone call at the end of the day, or like it's been said previously of like, oh, like maybe they don't want as much information, so that's a quick email.
Thank you all. You have all mentioned at some point tonight timelines for registration. Can you share a little bit more explicitly what the timelines are to sign your child up for camp, and if there's any financial resources to help with the costs?
We opened registration September 1st, and it goes as soon as a spot's full, it's full. And as far as financial assistance, is that what you're asking about? Okay. So we do have what we call camperships that parents can apply for, or if they have funds that are in budgets or whatever that they need our help with accessing, we're happy to do that.
I can go. Like I said, our structure logistics should be finalized and released very soon. I'm so sorry that I don't have that. But registration will open in April. And we do have a sliding fee scale based on income, and we do have scholarships available as well. We don't want financial to be a barrier as well at all.
For our camps, registration was opened in January. So that is available right now for our traditional and our adapted camps. The wait list for those camps will be turned on. I believe the date is April 2nd. So if there's a camp that you're looking at and it's full, just know that wait lists will open that day. There are no financial resources for our traditional and our adapted camps, but for the RecPac and RecPac inclusion sites, which the registration opens for those in March, March 12th, I believe. Those do have a sliding fee scale, like Christine mentioned for their camps.
And Monica, did you say earlier that a lot of the ones that opened in January are close to full already?
Yeah, the camps are quite competitive. It's a whole day of people just trying to register for camps. But I think there are still spaces available, so kind of just poke around the website on Park Takes, and see what is still open.
Okay.
But some of our adapted camps definitely still have space.
Okay. Good to know. Hannah?
So first of all, we do have scholarships available. And I believe there's a page on our website about that. In terms of registration and space, so I'm not sure when 2025 registration opens up exactly. It should be, I think, in early October for new families. But for summer 2024, registration has been open. It still is open. We have just a couple spots left depending on the session that you're interested in. So if you're interested for this summer, definitely reach out and we can see if it would work out. But if not, summer 2025 registration usually is sometime in the early fall.
Okay. And then Greg and Lauren.
Yeah, we open registration this year in November. Typically, it is in December. We just got ourselves a little early this time. We go all the way up through the summer. So, like, if you find yourself without a week of care and we are around and available, we will do our best to like have you join, depending on space and some other limitations. But generally, our registration fills up around April. We do have some like limited spots available after that. There are some scholarships that you can apply for as a family. You just reach out to our office and we connect you with our scholarship person and they will take you through the process.
Fantastic. Thank you. Some of you, oh no, I'm going to go into this question. How do you know if your child is ready for overnight camp, for our overnight camps here?
I beat you to the button, Hannah. So you're gonna press. So typically, my feeling is usually the kid is ready. You got to figure out if you're ready as a parent, right? They're the ones who are tougher to deal with and let their kids go, right? And soar. But through the intake process, we'll go through and ask certain questions to make sure that they are ready. And ready doesn't, people think, oh, well, my kid's not ready because they still wet the bed at night. I got 28-year-olds that wet their bed. That's not an issue. It's a matter of if they're going to be successful and gain stuff out of camp. So, start the conversation with the camps and let them do their homework and determine if it's a good fit or not. And relax because the kids are doing great. They're not worried about you, but the parents are always worried about the kids. So it's harder for parents than it is kids.
Anna, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that was a perfect answer. I think there's no marker of what makes a child ready or not ready. I think it's whether we are ready to support their specific needs at that point in time. And usually the answer is yes. But I'm going to sound like a broken record. Like it's really just, you got to think about those safety aspects. Is your child able to like have those safe behaviors, and also thinking about do they, if they really, really, really rely on lots of decompression time to the point that it's like there will be a problem if they don't get 4 hours of decompression time after school, that would be a sign to me that maybe they need to kind of work up a little more to being ready for camp, because as I said, some of those behaviors can come out when they are in this kind of unrelenting environment. But yeah, I mean, that's what the intake process is for, is kind of figuring out together if they are ready. And I wouldn't go off of based on like if they've never, we've had so many kids who have never slept away from home before who do amazing. Like it's not those kinds of yes or no questions that will get you to the answer. It's more that back and forth conversation during the intake process that will help us get a full picture.
All right. If the day camps would like to answer that too from a day camp perspective in terms of readiness for day camp, welcome to also. And if we don't have anything more to add, because those questions, those
Yeah, I
answers
mean,
were
I
great.
think Hannah said it quickly, but like best. Like I think it's more about if our camp, just any camp, is ready for like your child, and it's a conversation that we would have together, you know, parent to administrator, and hopefully with your child as well. But I think it's really figuring out if the camp is the right place for you to go to, not whether your child, like there's a camp I fully believe for every child. Is just figuring out which one makes sense for you.
Right. And then some of the questions that Sherry shared ahead of time, you guys have answered kind of in all answers to other questions. So I'm not going to ask all of them because you've kind of answered some of them already. But this one wasn't really expressly covered. So I want to put it out there in terms of how is your camp staffed? I.e., is it college students? Is it social workers? Is it, you know, what kind of licensing and all of that is behind the workers at your camp?
I can start. So we have a range of college students. We'll have instructional assistants from the schools. We have school health aides, teachers. We are just looking for folks that are really have experience working with individuals with disabilities and have a passion for it. So that's kind of who we're looking for and have.
Thank you. Monica?
Yeah, for us, it really depends on the camp that you register for. If it's a Fairfax County Park Authority specific camp, most of the times it's college students. If we have a lot of vendor camps that run through the Park Authority, and all of those are staffed by the vendor. So you have anywhere from high school, college students most of the time in those types of camps. In our like adapted and the at the rec pack and inclusion sites and our inclusion specialist, those are all people that have some form of disability background or experience. TR students, special education teachers, anybody that has some form of background, adapted PE teachers, we get a lot of those within kind of those realms of the programming that we offer.
Thank you. Shep, did I see you trying to unmute?
Sure, yeah. So we don't have campers that become CITs and then counselors. Our staff, for the most part, are getting their degrees in educational intervention, speech, OT, PT, BCAs, ABAs, you name it. And they're at camp because they want to make a living working with our kids. They want to put this on their resume. It's not just a fun summer job. For the most part, right? We do have exceptions. My lifeguards, I care that they know how to save a life more than anything else. And somebody who has a sibling who fits our population has always been great. But that's typically who we go out and hire.
Okay.
Sorry, Lauren, you can go ahead.
Yeah, for Camp Aqua, our summer staff range generally from age 15 to 20. And we give them training about how to work with the population of campers that we support. So those are things like behavior management strategies, learning about kind of what would work best with different campers, like supporting different emotions as they come up. And we also speak with our counselors before the summer starts and during the summer about the different campers individually that they'll be working with. So they have a better sense of kind of like, oh, like these are the support strategies that are already in place at school and at home, like we'll continue these things. But for past our summer staff, our summer supervisors range from elementary school teachers to speech pathologists and have extensive backgrounds working with children. our admin team. So our full-time team, for myself, I come with a social work background, having gotten my bachelor's in social work and then having experience working with our after-school program and previous after-school program and previous summer camp experience. I've worked with different kids of different ages and different abilities. Our assistant director has an also social work background, and she worked as an ABA therapist. So she also brings with her an extensive background working with different kids of like who need different supports. And so our whole admin team, we have training, and we help train our staff to kind of support needs as they come up. Is there anything I missed, Greg, or you want to add?
Nope, you got it.
And Hannah.
So we do have social workers and teachers and kind of those older professionals on our camper care team, which helps support the counselors. But our counselors are usually people who grew up at camp, and or our inclusion counselors specifically are usually people who grew up at camp and have a vested interest in inclusion and really, really want to be inclusion counselors. And so they're usually 18 to 21, 22-year-olds. And it's this weird thing where like it shouldn't work, but it does. Like they don't have a professional background, but really just kind of meeting kids where they're at and using kids like our experiences at camp to inform our practices. It works. I got started in this work because I was assigned as an 18-year-old counselor to be an inclusion counselor for a camper with cerebral palsy. And I was feeding her and dressing her and doing all of these things that like I had no idea I was capable of. And so it's a really cool growth opportunity for our counselors, but also really cool, we call it like near peer mentorship with the campers, where they get to bond with this person who is not like a provider or a teacher, but rather a near peer, kind of like in between a friend and a provider kind of person. It's a really special, unique relationship.
All right. Thank you. I'm just going to leave it open to one last. Is there anything that you have not shared with us yet that you think is important for us to know? Just as a final closing question, or if you have a final, just anything final you'd like to share. Let's start with Lauren and Greg.
I think that schools do a wonderful job of providing a lot of support and structure and learning to children. I also think that camp provides like a social, emotional space that is vastly different and is almost equally as important, if not more important, than what schools provide. I think the summer, is like our time to shine. We plan 10 months out of the year for like 2 months. And it is like our pride and joy. I think everybody on this call like loves it. But it is a place where like, I think children really come to their fullest selves, like when they're at camp, no matter what camp they're at.
Thank you. I'm going to pick up on that before we all go off the call. Let's turn it over to Christine.
No, I don't have much more to add other than, like I kind of mentioned, I'm representing therapeutic recreation camps, but if you go to our website, you can see the SAC camps that we offer and the ones that are at the community centers and the middle school after school specialists that run out of the middle schools as well. So the agency ourselves, we have a variety of other offerings. And therapeutic recreation also has year-round programming on weekends and evenings, and we do family events. Like Monica said, we partner a lot with the park authority. So just look out on our website to see if other things that might interest you.
Thank you. Shep.
Yeah, no, I first of all, thanks for having me on the call. It was great. Last thing I'll say is, I said it before, get your kid to a camp. Doesn't have to be mine. Doesn't even have to be someone on this call, although it should be. Get them to a camp. It's exceptional growth, and it's a great respite for the parents to be able to, and the siblings to be able to, take a break and regain their stride. So, and have fun. Have a great summer. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. And let's hear Monica.
Not much to add, but just, reach out to us. We're happy to talk through. The Park Authority offers way too many camps. And so if we want to get in the weeds about what might be the best fit, just, email us. We'll get on a phone call and we'll get it figured out to see what might be the best fit.
All right, sounds great. And then Hannah, close us out.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, I don't have too much to add, just that I know it takes so much trust to send your child to camp, especially when your child has a disability, and I don't take that for granted. And so I think those conversations are really key. Like, even if you don't think that it's going to pan out, just opening the door to conversations and starting to explore, so that maybe you'll be ready in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it may be, it's worth it. Like, in the end, it's really hard and it takes so much trust, but there's nothing like it. I promise it's worth it.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate you partnering with us to provide these resources to our families. I did want to pick up on that final thread you were all talking about and encourage everyone to continue the conversation over in our Facebook group. One of the questions I hear a lot, and I know I also personally struggle with a lot, is, do I send my child to ESY or do I send my child to summer camp? Because it is often an either or choice, just because of scheduling. So I think our presenters tonight, gave excellent
Summer camp is the answer.
responses to that without me actually asking the question, which I very much appreciate. Thank you. And I encourage everybody to go on over to the group and continue the conversation there. That's obviously something that's going to be very personal for every individual family, but it's something worth discussing as a community. And please do also know that as an organization, we are having the conversations with FCPS in terms of, how can we do both? How can we find solutions that both support our children in their social emotional growth and development, while also giving them the extended school year opportunities? And as with everything, there's no simple solutions, but those conversations are happening, and we encourage you to join them in the group. Thank you to our presenters again. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Your words of advice were valuable, and we are looking forward to hopefully doing this again next year. So with that, we're going to end the event. I'm going to stop the recording. Have a wonderful night, everyone.